The Yid whose name was Tuvia Bolton. Now, you see, Tuvia Bolton was a young bacher learning in Kfar Chabad. Now, he wasn't just a regular bacher learning in Kfar Chabad. As a matter of fact, he was a Baal Tshuva. He started off as a real hippie, learning in the University of Michigan. He was part of a rock band. And it's a long story how he came to become a Chassidus Yid. So before you know it, he was a bacher learning in Kfar Chabad Yeshiva. Now, while he was there, he realized something very interesting, that every Sunday, there was big crowds on the train. You know why? Because the soldiers would get off for Shabbos. Lots of soldiers, whoever wasn't vital necessities in their base, would get off for Shabbos, and they would go home, and on Sunday morning, they'd all be on the train going back to their base. Now, there's a train stop in Kfar Chabad. It's a whole story how the train stop got there. If you guys ever took the train in Israel, north-south, you go through Kfar Chabad. It's very interesting. All the other stops are in big cities. Kfar Chabad's a little town that has a train stop. But Tuvia Bolton realized if instead of going to Seder on Sunday morning, instead he gets on the train, he can get a lot of Yidden to put on tefillin. There, all these soldiers will be more than happy to put on tefillin if only someone would ask them. So every Sunday morning he would wake up early, and while everyone else was running off to learn Chassidus first thing in the morning, he would sit in his room and put on his tefillin and daven secretly and sneak out of the yeshiva once he had finished davening to make the early train, get on and start putting tefillin on people. Comes one week Sunday, Reb Mendel Futerfas, the mashpia, the spiritual mentor of the yeshiva, is going around the dormitory, checking if there's anyone sleeping in. It's his responsibility to make sure that everyone shows up to learn. He comes into a room, and he sees a bocher there, but not sleeping in, having a good time in bed like you'd expect. This guy's sitting there in his tefillin davening. Reb Mendel's like, what's going on here? I don't get it. If you want to sleep in, I get that. But like, if you want to daven, why don't you just come in an hour and daven with everyone else in shul? So he was caught. He's not going to lie to her. Mendel honored old Chassidus. So he says, okay, I'll tell you the truth. I actually figured out there's a lot of Yidden who want to put on tefillin on the early train. I want to daven quickly and get to the train. I hope I don't miss it. So he's getting ready to get in trouble. Maybe he got suspended, expelled. Reb Mendel says, okay, take me with you. He was a bit shocked, but fine. Finishes up davening really quick. Now he's running late. He's heading down the street with Reb Mendel towards the train. Now, Reb Mendel was an old man after years of Siberian exile and imprisonment. He couldn't walk so fast anymore. So Reb Mendel's shuffling along, and Tuvia Bolton's trying to get there quicker. They see in the distance the train pulling up to the station. It's not a big town. You can see things from a while away. So Reb Mendel tells him, just run ahead. Forget about me. Run ahead. So Tuvia runs, and jumps before the doors close and jumps into the train. Sits down and tries to catch his breath, and the doors aren't closing for a minute, 2 minutes. He's wondering, is there a blockage on the tracks? What's going on? After a few minutes of waiting, Reb Mendel shuffles onto the train, then the doors close, and the train goes. The train's going, Reb Mendel sits down to catch his breath, and Tuvia Bolton, already caught his breath, goes into the next carriage, starts asking, hey, you want to put on tefillin? You want to put on tefillin? He goes up to this guy, tough-looking guy, the soldier. He's like, you want to put on tefillin? The guy turns around. He's like, you religious people, you don't go to the army, you just take all our benefits, you're a waste of space, you don't care about the rest of the Jews, you're terrible people. The guy's like, Tuvia Bolton says, okay, I'm sorry. You understand, some people, you're not gonna get anywhere. He's going to avoid confrontation. He's not going to speak to him. He went over to the next carriage instead, started speaking to people. Most of the people are very happy. Yeah, put on tefillin. I love putting on tefillin. Please, I'll put on tefillin. Putting on tefillin with some guy in the next carriage, and then he remembers, oh no, I left Reb Mendel behind. He's going to go into the last carriage. This dude's going to start screaming at Reb Mendel. It's going to be terrible. His honored old Chassidus is going to get screaming at by this young hot-headed soldier. He's telling this guy, trying to get this guy to take off the tefillin. Hurry up. Telling the guy, hey, come on, let's take off the tefillin, let's get moving. You don't want to be rude, obviously. So he's like, okay, let's get moving. The guy's taking his time, and saying Shema, and saying some Dillim. He's doing his thing, taking his time. Finally, he starts taking off his tefillin from this guy really quick, and he hears screaming from the next carriage. You can hear it over the din of the train moving. You can imagine this guy was screaming his head off. He's like, oh no. He runs in to do some damage control, and he finds this soldier. He's looking quite shocked as Reb Mendel is screaming at him. He's like, what? And Reb Mendel's screaming at him over and over in Hebrew. Ani ohev otcha. I love you. He's just screaming at him in Hebrew. The guy was so taken aback. He'd never heard a religious person before in his life saying that he's anything positive about someone secular. For sure not that he loves him. He was so shocked, he said, okay, I'll put on tefillin. He put on tefillin with Reb Mendel. This is an incredible story, and I think the lesson of the story is not to start screaming at people, rather to start working on ourselves, to really love every fellow Yid, just like Reb Mendel. And then, through that, who knows what can affect? When someone sees that you truly care about them and love them, then all opposition to doing good things falls away.